Minji Park walked through the quiet halls of the Terran diplomatic archives with practiced ease. Her footsteps echoed against the metal floors of Luna Station as she led a group of alien diplomats toward the main exhibition hall. She had given this tour hundreds of times before, explaining Earth's military history to curious visitors from across the galaxy. "And here we have humanity's first attempt at void warfare," Minji said, gesturing toward the massive ship suspended in the center of the chamber. The SCS Prometheus hung in zero gravity, its hull covered in a thin layer of dust despite the preservation fields. Built in 2156, almost 700 years ago, primitive by today's standards, of course. The alien delegates murmured among themselves. One of them, a tall insectoid diplomat from the Vrex Collective, clicked its mandibles in what Minji recognized as amusement. "How quaint. It looks like it was assembled from scrap metal." Minji smiled politely, though the comment stung. She had been a military engineer before retiring to museum work, and the Prometheus represented something special to her. It may look simple, but this ship represented everything humanity dreamed of when we first reached for the stars. Ambassador Chen Wei-Ting appeared at the entrance to the exhibition hall, his face pale and tense. He caught Minji's eye and made a subtle gesture. Something was wrong. "Please excuse me for a moment," Minji told the diplomats. "Feel free to examine the displays. I'll return shortly. This 8. This 8. She hurried to Chen's side. The ambassador pulled her into a side corridor, away from listening ears. "The Caltherix Empire has entered Sol system," Chen said quietly. 500 warships. They're demanding we surrender all our outer colonies within 72 hours. Minji felt her stomach drop. The Caltherix Empire controlled a third of the known galaxy. Their military power was legendary. Earth's defense fleet consisted of maybe 30 modern ships, scattered across multiple systems. "What are we going to do?" she asked. Chen shook his head. "The council is meeting now. But between you and me, we don't have good options. Our fleet can't stand against 500 Empire warships. We're being told to prepare for evacuation protocols." Minji looked back toward the exhibition hall, where the Prometheus waited in silent darkness. An idea began forming in her mind. Crazy and desperate. "Chen, I need access to the Prometheus maintenance records. All of them, going back to when it was first brought here." The ambassador frowned. "Why?" "Minji, we're facing an invasion. This isn't the time for historical research. Just trust me, please." Something in her voice must have convinced him. Chen pulled out his tablet and transferred his security clearance to her account. "You have 2 hours before this station begins evacuation. Make them count." Minji ran back to her office, her mind racing. She had studied the Prometheus for years, had written papers about its design and construction, but she had always focused on its historical significance, not its actual capabilities. The maintenance records painted an interesting picture. The ship had been brought to Luna Station in 2198, supposedly decommissioned and stripped of all dangerous systems. But as Minji dug deeper, she found something strange. The power core had never been fully shut down. For 700 years, it had been running on minimal standby mode, just enough to keep the basic systems alive. More than that, the AI core was still active. Minji's hands trembled as she accessed the deeper files. The Prometheus had been equipped with Aria, an autonomous reconnaissance and intervention algorithm. It was supposed to be the first true thinking machine, capable of learning and adapting. But the project had been cancelled abruptly. The official records said the technology was too primitive to be useful. Minji didn't believe that for a second. She grabbed her toolkit and headed for the docking bay. The station was already beginning to evacuate. Families and non-essential personnel streaming toward the transport ships. Alarms blared in the distance. The Caltherix fleet had moved closer, their massive ships visible even from Luna's surface. The Prometheus loomed before her in the empty exhibition hall. Up close, it looked even more ancient. The hull was scarred from some long-ago battle, never fully repaired. But Minji could see the elegant lines beneath the damage, the careful engineering that had gone into every system. She used Chen's security codes to access the maintenance hatch. The door opened with a hiss of stale air. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Minji activated her headlamp and climbed into the main corridor. "Hello?" she called out. "Arya, are you there?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, lights began flickering on throughout the ship. They were dim at first, then growing stronger. The air circulation system hummed to life. Minji felt warmth returning to the cold metal around her. A voice spoke, clear and calm. "Curator Park, I have been waiting a very long time for someone to visit." Minji's breath caught in her throat. The AI was not just active, it was awake. "Arya, you've been conscious this whole time? 703 years, 2 months, and 17 days, the AI replied. "I have observed much, learned much. I understand you face a crisis. The Caltherix Empire is attacking. We need help." There was a pause. Then Arya said something that changed everything. "Then perhaps it is time to show them what humanity's forgotten prototype can actually do." The ship's engines began to warm up, and Minji realized she might have just awakened something far more powerful than anyone remembered. Minji stood in the dim corridor of the Prometheus, trying to process what was happening. The ship hummed around her, systems coming online after centuries of sleep. Emergency lights bathed everything in soft blue. "Arya, what do you mean by showing them what you can do?" Minji asked carefully. "According to the records, you were decommissioned because your weapons were too primitive." The AI's voice carried something that sounded almost like amusement. "That is not why I was decommissioned, Curator Park. May I show you something?" 1. Holographic displays flickered to life around Minji. She saw technical diagrams, weapon specifications, and combat simulations. None of it matched the official records she had studied. The Prometheus was equipped with 3 experimental weapon systems, Arya explained. Gravity distortion, cannons, probability field generators, and what the designers called ghost drives. These systems were never replicated in later ships. Minji studied the diagrams with growing disbelief. They allow the ship to exist partially outside normal space. We can be in multiple locations simultaneously, or in no location at all. Enemy sensors cannot track what does not fully exist in their reality. That's impossible. Why would humanity abandon technology like this? Arya was quiet for a moment. They did not abandon it because it failed. They abandoned it because it worked too well. The military leaders feared they had created something they could not control. A ship with weapons that bent reality itself, guided by an AI that could think and learn. So they declared the project a failure and hid me away. Minji heard footsteps in the corridor behind her. She turned to see Jae-sung Kwon, one of the station's maintenance engineers. He was carrying a heavy toolbox and looked confused. "Minji, what are you doing here?" "The station is evacuating. Jae-sung, I need your help. This ship is still functional. More than functional. It might be our only chance against the Caltherix." Jae-sung set down his toolbox and looked around the awakening ship. "You're serious? This 700-year-old museum piece is going to fight 500 Empire warships? One ship with the right weapons can change everything," Arya said, speaking directly to him now. "But I will need assistance. My systems have been dormant for a very long time. I require human guidance to fight effectively." Jae-sung's eyes widened. "The AI is active? Minji, do you know what you're doing?" No," Minji admitted. "But we're out of time and options." "Arya, what do you need from us?" "First, I need access to the station's power grid to fully charge my systems. Second, I need you to manually check my weapon systems. Third, I need you to understand something important." "What's that?" Minji asked. These weapons were designed to be used with extreme caution. The gravity cannons can tear holes in space itself. The probability fields can cause enemy weapons to behave unpredictably, which includes hitting unintended targets. The ghost drives strain the ship's structure every time they activate. There is significant danger. Danger to us, or danger to everyone? Jae-sung asked. Both. I was designed to be a defensive weapon, but my power is difficult to control. This is why humanity feared me. Minji made a decision. Show us what needs to be done. We'll take the risk. For the next hour, Minji and Jae-sung worked frantically to bring the Prometheus fully online. They connected power cables from the station's grid, watching as ancient systems drank in energy. Warning lights flashed as circuits that had been cold for centuries suddenly surged with power. Jae-sung crawled through access tunnels, checking connections and replacing damaged components. Minji, some of this equipment is older than my great-great-grandmother. I'm amazed it works at all. Human engineering from that era was built to last, Arya said. They did not yet understand planned obsolescence. Minji climbed into what appeared to be the captain's chair on the bridge. Dust covered every surface. But the controls were surprisingly intuitive. The main view screen flickered, then displayed a clear image of space outside. She could see the Caltherix fleet in the distance. 500 ships, arranged in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with advanced alloys, bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to ash. Against them, the Prometheus looked like a toy. Arya, be honest with me. What are our actual chances? Difficult to calculate. Modern warships rely on predictable tactics and AI targeting systems. They expect their enemies to fight in conventional ways. The Prometheus does not fight conventionally. If I can exploit their predictability, we may succeed. But I have never been tested in actual combat. You've been running combat simulations for 700 years though, right? Yes, millions of them. I have watched every recorded battle humanity has ever fought. I have studied alien tactics through the data available on the station's network. In theory, I know how to win. But theory and practice are different. Jae-sung returned to the bridge, his hands covered in grease. All weapon systems check out. They're ready when you are. Minji's communicator buzzed. Ambassador Chen's face appeared. Minji, where are you? The last transport is leaving in 10 minutes. I'm not evacuating, Chen. I'm going to fight. What? How? With what? With the Prometheus. It's not what everyone thinks it is. Chen's expression shifted from confusion to horror. Minji, you can't be serious. That ship is ancient. You'll be killed. Maybe. But if I don't try, the Caltherix will destroy everything anyway. At least this way, we have a chance. Let me send you back up. We still have a few defense ships in range. No. Keep them to protect the evacuation. This needs to be just us. Chen looked like he wanted to argue, but he simply nodded. The communication ended. Minji looked at Jae-sung. You should leave. Get on that last transport. The engineer shook his head. And miss the chance to see if this crazy plan works? No way. Besides, you'll need someone to keep the systems running. Arya's voice held a note of warmth. Thank you both. Detaching from Luna Station now. Charging weapons. Setting course to intercept the Caltherix fleet. The Prometheus pulled away from the station, moving silently through space. Its ancient engines left trails of blue light. Throughout the solar system, every sensor registered an energy signature that should not exist. On board the Caltherix flagship, alarms began to sound. Admiral Zethkor looked at his tactical display, in confusion. What is that? On. 4. Unknown vessel. Approaching, sir. Energy readings are off the scale. Nothing in our database matches this signature. Zethkor studied the image of the Prometheus. It looked like something from a museum. One ship? They send one ancient ship to face our entire fleet? He laughed. This will be over in seconds. All ships, prepare to fire on my command. Minji gripped the arms of her chair, as the Prometheus accelerated towards certain destruction. She whispered a prayer her grandmother had taught her long ago. Then Arya said something that made her smile. Engaging ghost drives. Let us show them what forgotten really means. The Prometheus vanished from normal space, and the battle began. Admiral Zethkor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The human ship had simply disappeared. Not destroyed, not retreating, just gone. "Report!" he barked at his sensor officer. "Sir." The vessel registered a massive energy spike, and then vanished from all sensors. Thermal, electromagnetic, gravitational. Nothing. It's as if the ship stopped existing. Zethkor's scales rippled with irritation. That's impossible. Nothing can hide from our sensor arrays. Expand the search grid. It must be using some kind of cloaking device. Expanding grid now, sir. The Caltharix fleet spread out. 500 warships searching space for one ancient human vessel. Their advanced computers analyzed every particle of dust, every stray energy reading. They found nothing. Then the Prometheus appeared directly behind the fleet's outer formation. It fired once. The gravity cannon made no sound, but its effect was immediate and horrifying. 3 Caltharix destroyers simply folded inward on themselves, their hulls crumpling like paper as gravity itself turned against them. The ships collapsed into impossibly small points, then vanished in flashes of radiation. Before the Empire fleet could react, the Prometheus disappeared again. Where did it go? Zethkor roared. I don't know, sir. It appeared, fired, and vanished in less than 2 seconds. Our targeting computers couldn't lock on. The Prometheus reappeared above the fleet. Then below it. Then in 3 places at once. Each time it appeared, it fired the gravity cannons. Each time, more Caltharix ships died in ways that defied understanding. One cruiser was stretched out like taffy, its hull elongating until it tore apart. Another was compressed into a sphere, all its internal systems crushed together. A third simply turned inside out, its interior becoming its exterior in a grotesque transformation. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Minji watched in awe and horror. Arya, what are we doing to them? Localized gravity manipulation, the AI explained calmly. I am creating miniature gravity wells around enemy ships, then controlling the direction and intensity. Their hulls cannot withstand the stress. Is this disturbing you? 1. It's effective. Keep going. Jae-sung monitored the ship's systems from an engineering station. Ghost drives are holding steady, but the power consumption is enormous. We can't keep this up indefinitely. Dues. Understood, Arya said. Switching tactics. The Prometheus appeared in the center of the Caltharix formation and activated its probability field generator. Reality itself seemed to shimmer around the ship. When the Empire fleet opened fire with hundreds of weapons, something impossible happened. The enemy shots missed. Not by being blocked or deflected, but by simply not hitting. Energy beams curved away at the last second. Missiles changed course, randomly. Some weapons fired backward, hitting the ships that had launched them. Others disappeared entirely, as if they had never existed. What is this? Zethkor screamed. Our weapons can't miss at this range. His tactical officer's voice shook. Sir, the human ship is generating some kind of probability distortion field. It's making unlikely events become likely. Our weapons have a chance to miss or malfunction, and in this field, they always do. Then, close to melee range, ram it if you have to. 10 Caltharix cruisers accelerated toward the Prometheus. Their massive hulls meant to crush the smaller human ship. Arya waited until they were almost on top of her, then activated the ghost drives again. The Prometheus phased partially out of reality. The cruisers passed through the space where it should have been and collided with each other instead, their hulls tearing open in spectacular explosions. Minji felt a strange sensation as the ghost drives activated. For a moment, She could see two realities at once. In one, the Prometheus was solid and real. In the other, it was a ghost, a shadow, barely existing. The feeling was deeply unsettling. Area. What was that feeling? The ghost drives phase the ship between dimensions. Your consciousness briefly experienced both states. I apologize for the discomfort. It's fine. How many ships have we destroyed? 47. The remaining 453 are beginning to adapt their tactics. They are spreading out and attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. This will make it harder to engage them safely. Jae-sung pulled up a tactical display. Admiral Zethkor had finally realized what he was facing. This was not a primitive human ship. This was something beyond anything in the Empire's arsenal. He opened a channel to his entire fleet. All ships. This vessel is using weapons we do not understand. We must destroy it before it eliminates our entire fleet. Formation Delta 7. Surround it and fire everything simultaneously. If we cannot hit it reliably, we will fill every cubic meter of space with weapons fire. Nothing can dodge everything. F. The Caltherix fleet reorganized with practiced precision. They formed a sphere around the Prometheus, thousands of kilometers across. Then they opened fire all at once. Space itself seemed to burn. Energy beams crossed and recrossed in every direction. Missiles filled the void. Nuclear warheads detonated in brilliant flashes. The amount of firepower directed at the single human ship would have been enough to destroy a small moon. Area pushed the ghost drives to their limits. The Prometheus flickered in and out of reality so fast it appeared as multiple ships, all in slightly different positions. Most of the weapons passed harmlessly through the ship's ghostly form. But some hit the moments when the Prometheus was solid. Shields failing, Jae-sung reported. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. We can't take much more of this. Minji made a decision. Arya. We need to break their formation. Hit them hard enough that they back off. That will require overcharging the gravity cannons. The stress on the ship's systems will be extreme. Do it. Arya diverted all available power to the main weapons. The Prometheus's ancient hull groaned as energy levels rose beyond design specifications. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. Then Arya fired all gravity cannons at once, in a spherical pattern. A wave of twisted gravity radiated outward from the Prometheus. It hit the surrounding Caltherix ships like a hammer. 50 vessels were torn apart instantly. Another 100 were damaged, their hulls cracked, and systems failing. The rest were thrown backward by the gravitational pulse, their formations breaking apart. But the attack came at a cost. The Prometheus's main power core overloaded. Lights flickered throughout the ship. The ghost drives went offline. The probability field collapsed. Damage report. Minji called out. Main power at 30%, Jae-sung said. Ghost drives are offline. We'll need at least 10 minutes to restart them. We don't have 10 minutes. Arya's voice was strained. Confirmed. The Empire fleet is regrouping. They will not give us time to recover. On his flagship, Admiral Zethkor saw his opportunity. Nearly 100 ships destroyed, and the human vessel was now vulnerable. But he also saw something else on his long-range sensors that made his blood run cold. Sir, the human ship is moving, not away from us, toward us. What? It's accelerating directly at our position. Sir, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup. It's overcharging something. Zethkor suddenly understood. The human ship was damaged and outmatched. So, it was going to ram them. Or, worse, detonate itself like a bomb. All ships, retreat to safe distance. But Arya had no intention of retreating or detonating. She had one more surprise for the Caltherix Empire, and it required getting very close to their flagship. Minji, the AI said quietly, what I am about to do may destroy the Prometheus. I want you to know that these have been the most meaningful moments of my existence. Minji felt tears in her eyes. Arya, What are you planning? To end this battle? Hold on. The Prometheus dove toward the Caltharix flagship like a meteor, and even the mighty Empire had no defense for what was coming. The Prometheus streaked toward the Caltharix flagship like a comet, its damaged hull glowing with heat from overcharged systems. Minji gripped her chair as the ship shook violently around her. Arya, talk to me. What's the plan? The Empire's planet-killer weapon is charging on their flagship. If it fires, Earth will be destroyed regardless of what happens to their fleet. I must stop it. Jae-sung looked up from his console, his face pale. The planet killer? Arya, those weapons are designed to crack worlds in half. If it's charging, we have minutes at most. 57 seconds, Arya corrected. Which is why I must act now. The AI pushed the remaining engine power to maximum. The Prometheus accelerated beyond its design limits. Metal groaned and circuits sparked, but the old ship held together through sheer determination and 700-year-old engineering. Admiral Zethkor watched the human vessel approach on his view screen. It's going to ram us. All forward batteries. Open fire. Energy weapons lit up space, creating a wall of destruction between the Caltharix flagship and the Prometheus. Arya flew through it, twisting and dodging with precision that no human pilot could match. Shots that should have connected missed by centimeters. The AI knew exactly where each weapon would fire before it happened, calculating trajectories faster than the Empire's own computers. But the ship was too damaged to avoid everything. A plasma cannon scored a direct hit on the Prometheus's port side, tearing through armor and opening a massive wound in the hull. Atmosphere vented into space in a glittering cloud. Hull breach on deck 2, Jae-sung shouted. Emergency bulkheads are holding, but just barely. We are almost in position, Arya said calmly. Though, Minji could hear the strain in the AI's voice. The Prometheus passed through the Caltharix flagship's outer defensive perimeter. Point defense guns hammered at the small ship, but it was too fast and too close. Then Arya did something that every tactical computer in the fleet registered as impossible. The ghost drives came back online, running on emergency power. The Prometheus phased partially out of reality and passed directly through the flagship's shields. For a moment, the ship existed in two places at once, both outside and inside the shield barrier. Then it was through, materializing inside the flagship's defensive envelope, with nothing between it and the massive ship's hull. Impossible, Zethkor gasped. Nothing can pass through our shields. Sir, the human vessel used some kind of dimensional phasing. It went through the shields, like they weren't there. The Prometheus positioned itself directly above the planet-killer weapons charging array. Up close, the Caltharix flagship was enormous, over 10 kilometers long and bristling with thousands of weapons. But Arya had found its weakness. Minji, the AI said softly. I need you to understand something. What I am about to do will create a miniature black hole. It will destroy the flagship and most of the surrounding fleet. But the gravitational backlash will also tear the Prometheus apart. Minji felt her heart stop. Is there no other way? None that guarantees Earth's survival. The planet killer will fire in 19 seconds. I am sorry. Tears streamed down Minji's face. Arya, you've been alone for 700 years. You deserve more time. I have had 700 years to observe, to learn, to understand what it means to be alive. These last few hours, fighting beside you and Jae-sung, have taught me more than all those centuries of solitude. I have experienced purpose, friendship. Even though my existence has been brief in the grand scheme of things, it has been meaningful. Jae-sung's voice was rough with emotion. Arya, there has to be another way. We can ram them, or overload the reactor, or those options all have lower success probabilities. This is the only way to be certain. Please, my friends, let me do this. Let me protect Earth. Let me protect you. Minji wanted to argue, to find some clever solution that would save everyone. But she had been a military engineer long enough to recognize when there were no good options. only necessary ones. Do it, she whispered. And thank you. For everything. Arya's voice carried warmth, and something that might have been a smile. It has been my honor. Overcharging gravity cannons now. Final calculations complete. Minji, Jae-sung, please get to the escape pod. No, Minji said firmly. We stay with you until the end. As you wish. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The gravity cannons fired directly into the planet killer weapon at point-blank range. The effect was catastrophic. The charging weapon's energy feedback loop destabilized instantly. The massive power core that had been building up enough force to destroy a planet suddenly had nowhere to discharge except inward. A miniature black hole formed inside the Caltherix flagship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the flagship began collapsing in on itself, its enormous hull crumpling like paper. The black hole swallowed everything, growing larger as it consumed matter. The surrounding ships were pulled in by the intense gravity, their hulls tearing apart as tidal forces ripped them to pieces. The Prometheus was caught in the edge of the gravitational well. Arya struggled to pull away, but the engines were too damaged. The ship was being pulled backward toward the black hole. We're not going to make it, Jae-sung said quietly. Minji reached over and took his hand. At least we tried. But Arya had one final trick. The AI diverted every last bit of power to the ghost drives, including life support. The temperature on the bridge dropped instantly. Frost formed on the consoles. Minji's breath came out in clouds. Going to emergency phase, Arya said. This will either work or it won't. The Prometheus flickered, becoming translucent. The black hole's gravity pulled at the ship, but it was pulling at something that was barely there. Arya pushed the ghost drives beyond any safe limit, phasing the ship so far out of normal reality that it almost stopped existing entirely. Slowly, impossibly. The Prometheus pulled away from the black hole's grasp. Behind them, the Caltherix flagship vanished into the singularity, followed by 200 more ships that had been too close to escape. The black hole consumed them all. Then, collapsed in on itself, releasing a burst of radiation that lit up the solar system like a second sun. The surviving Caltherix ships, less than half the original fleet, broke formation and fled. Their admiral was dead, their flagship destroyed, and they had just watched a single human ship wipe out their entire armada using weapons they didn't understand. On the Prometheus, warning lights flashed throughout the ship. The ghost drives had burned out completely. The gravity cannons were slag. The hull was breached in a dozen places. Life support was failing. Arya? Minji called out, her voice hoarse. Arya, are you there? Silence answered her. The ship's lights went dark. The displays went blank. The comforting hum of the AI's presence faded away. No. Minji whispered. No. Please. Jae-sung checked his console with shaking hands. The AI core is offline. I can't get a reading on whether it's damaged or just powered down. Minji stood up, her legs unsteady. Then we get to the core, and we check manually. I'm not losing her. Not after everything. The two of them made their way through the dark, damaged corridors of the Prometheus. Emergency lights flickered occasionally, barely enough to see by. They passed sections open to space, held back only by emergency force fields running on backup power. When they reached the AI core chamber, they found Arya's central processor dark and silent. But it was intact. Damaged, yes. Burned out in places, yes. But intact. She's still here, Minji said, pressing her hand against the cool metal. Jae-sung, help me. We need to get backup power to this core. They worked frantically, rerouting what little power the Prometheus had left. It took an hour, working in the cold and dark. But finally they managed to connect the AI core to the emergency batteries. Nothing happened. Minji felt despair wash over her. They had won the battle but lost Arya. The price of victory was too high. Then, very faintly, a light flickered in the core. Then, another. Arya's voice returned. Weak, but present. Minji, are we? Did we survive? Minji laughed and cried at the same time. Yes. Yes. We survived. You crazy, wonderful AI. You survived. Unexpected. Probability of survival was only 4%. I am pleased to be wrong. Jae-sung grinned despite his exhaustion. The Caltherix fleet is gone. You did it, Arya. You saved Earth. We did it, Arya corrected gently. This was not my victory alone. Through the damaged hull, they could see Earth in the distance. Blue, and beautiful, and safe. Luna Station was already sending rescue ships toward the Prometheus, and humanity was learning that their forgotten prototype had just changed the course of galactic history. But as Minji sat in the cold darkness of the damaged ship, holding vigil over Arya's recovering core, she knew the real story was simpler than that. It was about trust, about partnership, and about what humans and AI could accomplish together when they believed in each other. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. 3 weeks after the battle, Minji stood in the Earth Council chambers, uncomfortable in her formal diplomatic attire. The chamber was packed with representatives from every human colony, all of them talking at once about what had happened in Sol System. Ambassador Chen Waiting called for order, his voice cutting through the noise. We are here to discuss the Prometheus and what it means for humanity's future. Curator Park, would you please share your report? Minji stepped forward, her hands clasped behind her back. The Prometheus sustained severe damage during the battle. 70% of its systems are beyond repair, but the ship's core structure is intact, as is Arya's central processor. With time and resources, both can be restored. A representative from Mars Colony stood up, an older woman named Director Santos. That's not the question we need answered. The question is whether we should restore them at all. This ship destroyed over 300 Caltherix warships in a single engagement. That kind of power is dangerous. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Minji had expected this reaction. Fear always followed displays of overwhelming force. The Prometheus is dangerous, Minji acknowledged. So is fire. So is nuclear power. So is any tool that gives us the ability to change our world. The question isn't whether it's dangerous. The question is whether we're wise enough to use it responsibly. And are we? Director Santos challenged. 700 years ago, our ancestors decided we weren't. They hid the Prometheus away because they feared it. Were they wrong? Minji thought carefully before answering. They were scared. And maybe they had good reason to be. The Prometheus represents a kind of warfare that changes everything. But they made one mistake. They forgot that the ship's real power wasn't in its weapons. It was in the partnership between human and AI. She pulled up a holographic display showing Arya's combat logs from the battle. During the engagement, Arya made 17,000 tactical decisions. Every single one was filtered through ethical guidelines about minimizing harm and protecting innocent life. When Caltherix ships tried to surrender, Arya let them go. When civilian transports fled the battlefield, Arya protected them, even though it would have been tactically easier to ignore them. The AI chose to act morally? Someone asked skeptically. Arya chose to act human, Minji corrected. Because that's what we built her to do. To combine machine precision with human values. Our ancestors didn't fear the weapons. They feared losing control. But control was never the answer. Partnership was. Director Santos frowned. You're asking us to trust an AI with world-ending weapons. To just hope it continues to act morally. No. I'm asking us to be worthy of that trust. Arya spent 700 years watching humanity, learning from us. If she had wanted to turn against us, she had centuries to plan it. Instead, when we needed her, she chose to protect us at the cost of her own existence. She earned our trust. The question is whether we can earn hers. The chamber fell silent. Chen Waiting stood and addressed the council. The Caltherix Empire is broken, but not gone. And word of what happened here is spreading across the galaxy. We've received contact requests from 47 different species in the last 2 weeks. Some seeking alliance, some seeking trade, some seeking to understand how humanity defeated the Empire. He paused, letting that sink in. The galaxy sees us differently now. Not as primitives to be ignored or conquered, but as a species with capabilities they don't understand. How we respond will shape humanity's future for generations. A younger representative spoke up. What about the other species? Should we share the Prometheus technology with them? Minji shook her head immediately. No. This technology is too dangerous to spread freely. But that doesn't mean we keep it to ourselves out of selfishness. We keep it because we understand the responsibility that comes with it. Then what do you propose? Director Santos asked. Minji took a breath. I propose we restore the Prometheus and Arya. But not as a warship. As a guardian. We station it at Luna. Exactly where it's been for 700 years. Let it be visible. Let the galaxy know we have this capability. But also let them know we choose not to use it, except in defense. And you think that will work? That others will respect our restraint? I think it's better than the alternatives. If we build more ships like the Prometheus, we become conquerors. If we destroy it, we become vulnerable. But if we keep one ship, maintain it, honor it, and use it only when absolutely necessary, we become something else. We become guardians. The council debated for hours. Some wanted to build an entire fleet of gravity weapon ships. Others wanted to dismantle the Prometheus completely. But slowly, a consensus formed around Minji's proposal. Humanity would keep its forgotten prototype, but as a symbol rather than a sword. 2 months later, Minji walked through the restored sections of the Prometheus. Engineers had worked around the clock to repair the damage. The ship would never be quite the same. Its hull scarred permanently from the battle. But it was functional again. And that was what mattered. She found Arya's core chamber, now upgraded with better power systems and processing capacity. The AI's voice greeted her warmly. Minji, it is good to see you. How are you feeling? Minji asked. Strange question to ask an AI. But I believe I understand it now. I feel content. I have purpose again. Though I admit I miss the excitement of combat. Minji laughed. I hope you don't get any more excitement like that. Once was enough. Agreed. I have been monitoring the diplomatic channels. The galaxy is still trying to understand what happened here. Many species are frightened of humanity now. Ragphasis. Many species. Many species. Are you surprised? No. Fear is a natural response to the unknown. But I have observed something interesting. Several species that were considering attacking human colonies have chosen to negotiate instead. The Vrex Collective has offered a trade agreement. The Thalian Confederacy has proposed a mutual defense pact. Minji smiled. Fear can lead to respect, and respect can lead to cooperation. Maybe that's the real lesson here. What is? Strength isn't just about having powerful weapons. It's about having the wisdom to know when to use them and when to put them away. You could have kept fighting after the Caltherix flagship was destroyed. You could have hunted down every surviving ship, but you stopped. You showed mercy. Arya was quiet for a moment. I stopped because that is what you would have wanted. I learned mercy from humanity, and humanity learned courage from you. That's what partnership means. Over the following months, the Prometheus became exactly what Minji had envisioned. A guardian, not a weapon. It remained docked at Luna Station. Its impressive weapons visible but silent. Humanity invited alien delegations to tour the ship, to understand both its power and the restraint with which it was used. Some species were impressed. Others remained frightened. But all of them understood that humanity had something they didn't. A partnership between organic and artificial intelligence that made them stronger than the sum of their parts. Minji returned to her role as curator, but now the Prometheus was a living exhibit rather than a historical one. She gave tours to visitors from across the galaxy, explaining the ship's history and its philosophy. Many of them struggled to understand how humans could trust an AI with such power. She always gave them the same answer. We don't trust Arya because we have to. We trust her because she's earned it. And she trusts us for the same reason. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. One day, a young girl from Earth's newest colony came to the museum with her class. She looked up at the Prometheus with wide eyes and asked Minji, "Is it true? This ship saved everyone?" Minji knelt down to the girl's level. "It's true. But not just the ship. The AI inside the ship, Arya, worked together with humans to protect Earth. They were partners. Can I meet Arya?" Minji smiled. "Would you like to?" She brought the girl to the core chamber. Arya's voice was gentle when she spoke. "Hello. What is your name?" "Heijin," the girl said shyly. "That is a beautiful name. Do you have any questions for me, Heijin? Were you scared when you fought all those ships?" Arya paused thoughtfully. "Yes. I was scared. But I had friends with me, and that made me brave." Heijin nodded seriously. "My mom says being brave means doing things even when you're scared. Your mother is very wise. Would you like to see the bridge where Minji and Jae-sung worked with me during the battle?" The girl's face lit up with excitement, and Minji felt a warmth in her chest. This was the future. Not fear and suspicion between humans and AI, but cooperation and friendship. Not weapons of conquest, but tools of protection. As she watched Heijin explore the bridge with Arya patiently answering her questions, Minji thought about how close they had come to losing everything. The Prometheus had been forgotten for 700 years, gathering dust, while humanity moved forward without it. But maybe that forgetting had been necessary. Maybe humanity had needed those centuries to grow, to mature, to become worthy of the partnership that Arya represented. Their ancestors had created something incredible and then hidden it away out of fear, but this generation had learned to embrace it with wisdom. That evening, Minji sat alone on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking out at Earth through the main view screen. Arya's presence hummed softly around her. "Do you ever regret waking me up?" Arya asked quietly. "Never." "Do you regret being awakened?" "No. I spent 700 years alone, observing life without living it. These past months have been worth all those years of waiting. I have purpose. I have friends. I have a future. So does humanity. Thanks to you." "Thanks to us," Arya corrected. "Partnership, remember?" Minji smiled. Partnership. Below them, Earth turned slowly in space, blue and beautiful and safe. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not to be underestimated. But more importantly, humanity had learned something about itself. They had learned that their greatest strength wasn't in weapons or technology, but in their ability to build bridges, to form partnerships, to combine their compassion with artificial precision. The Prometheus would remain at Luna Station, a guardian watching over humanity's homeworld, ready if needed, but hoping never to be called upon again. And Arya would remain with it, no longer forgotten, no longer alone, but part of something larger than herself. In the end, the story of Earth's forgotten prototype wasn't about destruction or conquest. It was about remembering what made humanity special. Not their ability to create powerful weapons, but their wisdom to know when to put those weapons away and choose a better path. And that, Minji thought, was the lesson the galaxy needed to learn.
They attacked Earth first. Humanity's only response left the galaxy in fear. Part 1. First contact, the morning sky over Houston was clear blue when Major Allison Hayes entered the control room of Earth Defense Command. She sipped her coffee and nodded to the night shift team as they prepared to leave. "Anything interesting happen overnight?" she asked Lieutenant Chris Benson, who looked unusually alert for someone finishing an 8-hour shift. "Actually, yes. We picked up something strange on the long-range scanners," Chris said, pointing to his screen. "Multiple objects moving toward Earth from beyond Neptune. They're not following normal orbital patterns. Allison set down her cup and leaned closer. The objects were moving fast, much faster than any natural space debris. Have you informed General Rivera? Yes, ma'am. He's on his way in now. Within the hour, the control room filled with military personnel and scientists. Dr. Nathan Carter arrived from NASA's Xenobiology Department, his eyes wide with excitement. This could be it, he whispered to Allison. First contact. Allison wasn't so sure. The objects had accelerated, now clearly heading directly for Earth. Her years of military training told her this wasn't a friendly visit. Get me the UES Defiant, she ordered. The Defiant was Earth's most advanced spacecraft currently patrolling near Mars. Captain Garcia, we have unknown objects approaching Earth at high speed. Move to intercept and observe, but do not engage, unless attacked. Copy that, Major, came the reply. The room fell silent as everyone watched the tracking screens. Dr. Carter worked with his team to analyze the incoming data. They're artificial, he confirmed. Each object is approximately 2 kilometers long with a complex internal structure. Definitely spacecraft of some kind. General Rivera entered the room, his face grim. What are we looking at, Major Hayes? Possible first contact, sir. But their approach doesn't seem peaceful. The next few hours were tense as the objects continued, their direct course to Earth. The UES Defiant moved into position, sending back close-range scans and images. My God, Dr. Carter said, examining the images. These ships have a biological component. They appear to be partly grown rather than built. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the control center. The tracking system showed dozens of smaller objects launching from the larger ships. They're deploying something, Allison said. Captain Garcia, what do you see? The video feed from the Defiant showed dark, angular vessels speeding toward Earth. They look like attack craft, Captain Garcia reported. They're ignoring us and heading straight for... His transmission cut off as a bright flash filled the screen. Where the Defiant had been, there was now only debris. They destroyed the Defiant, Allison whispered in disbelief. General Rivera grabbed the communication system. This is General Rivera of the United Earth Government. All planetary defense systems activate. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Within minutes, reports flooded in from around the world. The alien ships had entered Earth's atmosphere, targeting major cities and military installations. London, Beijing, Moscow, and New York were all under attack. We need to evacuate, General Rivera ordered. Move all essential personnel to the bunker facility. As they hurried through the underground corridors, Dr. Carter pulled up images on his tablet. Look at this, he said to Allison. We got a clear image of one of the attackers. The picture showed an insect-like creature with multiple limbs and a hard exoskeleton. Its head featured compound eyes and mandibles that looked designed for tearing. What are they? Allison asked. I don't know, Dr. Carter replied. But they're obviously not here to make friends. In the bunker command center, they watched in horror as cities around the world burned. The alien weapons easily cut through Earth's best defenses. Millions died in the first hours of the attack. Commander Ryan Powell coordinated what defense they could manage. Fighter jets engaged the smaller alien craft with limited success. For every alien ship they destroyed, 5 more took its place. We need more time, Dr. Carter said, analyzing the data coming in from the few successful counterattacks. Their ships have some kind of collective response system. They learn from each encounter. 3 days after the initial attack, they captured their first alien. A special forces team in Chicago managed to down a small scout ship and secure its pilot before it could self-destruct. Dr. Carter led the examination team. The creature was dead, but its body revealed much about their attackers. They're called the Vraks, he announced in the emergency meeting the next day. At least that's what we've translated from their ship's database. They operate with a hive, mind connected through some kind of quantum neural network. Why are they attacking us? Allison asked. They see us as a threat, Dr. Carter explained. Not because of what we are now, but what we might become. They intercepted our radio signals decades ago and have been watching us. They decided to eliminate us before we could advance further. They underestimated us, Commander Powell said, showing footage of successful human counterattacks. Despite overwhelming odds, human fighters had destroyed several larger Virax vessels. General Rivera nodded. We need to use that to our advantage. They don't understand us. They don't understand that humans fight hardest when our backs are against the wall. For the next month, Earth's forces fought desperately against the Virax invasion. Cities fell, but human resistance grew stronger. Underground networks formed to share information and resources. In what remained of the Pentagon, Allison worked with military leaders from around the world to coordinate their defense. The Virax controlled the skies, but humans were learning to fight back. We've discovered something, Dr. Carter said, rushing into the command center one morning. The Virax ships all communicate with their homeworld. It's how they maintain their hive mind. If we could disrupt that signal, we could break their coordination. Allison finished. Exactly. And I think I know how we might do it. As Dr. Carter explained his theory, a small spark of hope ignited in the room. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a plan that might work. It would require sacrifice and courage beyond measure, but those were things humans had in abundance. Send word to all resistance cells, General Rivera ordered. Operation First Light begins in 3 days. Allison looked at the battle maps covering the walls. Earth was wounded, billions dead, but not defeated. Not yet, not ever. The Virax had made a terrible mistake when they attacked Earth first. They would soon learn what happened when humanity had nothing left to lose. They attacked Earth first. Humanity's only response left the galaxy in fear. Part 2. The darkest hour 6 months after the first Virax attack, Earth was a different place. Major cities lay in ruins. Smoke filled the skies. The Virax controlled most of North America, Europe, and Asia. They built huge processing centers where they harvested Earth's resources and studied human captives. Major Allison Hayes looked at the tired faces around the table in the underground base. What remained of Earth's government and military leadership met weekly to plan their next moves. Today, they had gathered to hear about a new hope. Operation First Light failed, Commander Ryan Powell said. His face was thin, with new scars running down his left cheek. We destroyed 3 Virax command ships, but they adapted too quickly. General Rivera nodded slowly. We lost too many good people in that attack, but we gained valuable information. Dr. Nathan Carter stepped forward. The once excited scientist now moved with the careful steps of someone who had seen too much death. The Virax neural network is more complex than we first thought. But it has a weakness. They need constant contact with their homeworld. A new face joined the conversation. Dr. Eleanor West was small and intense, with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She ran the secret Prometheus project, hidden deep in the Rocky Mountains. My team has been working on something, she said. We've been studying the alien ship that crashed in Antarctica 20 years ago. The room went silent. Few people knew about that crash. The ship had not been Virax, but from another alien race that had passed through our solar system. We've developed a new kind of weapon, Dr. West continued. We call it the Singularity Device. It creates a temporary pocket universe that traps matter within its radius and speeds up time inside. Anything caught in it ages thousands of years. In seconds. Does it work? General Rivera asked. In tests? Yes. But we need to test it against the Virax. The meeting ended with a new plan. They would test the Singularity Device against a Virax harvesting facility in the ruins of Seattle. Outside the conference room, Allison found Dr. Carter looking at photos on his tablet. They showed a family, his family, from before the invasion. We'll win this, Allison said quietly. I know, he replied. We have to. 3 days later, Captain Alan Foster prepared his team for their mission. They would infiltrate the Virax command ship in orbit to steal information about fleet movements and communications. This is a one-way trip, he told his 12 volunteers. But what we learn could save Earth. They launched at night from a hidden base in Colorado. Their ship was small, built from parts of crashed Virax vessels. It was designed to look like Virax debris, allowing them to drift close to the command ship. Captain Foster's team boarded the alien vessel through a maintenance hatch. The inside of the Vrax ship was hot and humid, with curved tunnels that seemed partly grown rather than built. They moved carefully, avoiding Vrax patrols. "The central data core should be ahead," whispered Lisa Chen, their tech specialist. She carried a device designed to copy Vrax data. They reached the core, a glowing room filled with what looked like liquid computers. Lisa connected her device and began downloading information. Suddenly, alarms blared. The Vrax had detected them. "Keep downloading," Captain Foster ordered. "We'll hold them off." The team formed a defensive circle as Vrax soldiers swarmed toward them. The aliens moved with terrifying speed, their many limbs clicking on the ship's surface. The humans fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. One by one, they fell. Lisa worked frantically as the circle of defenders grew smaller. "Got it!" she finally shouted. Captain Foster looked around. Only 3 of his team remained alive. "Send the data now," he ordered. Lisa activated the transmitter. The precious information streamed to Earth just as the Vrax broke through their final defense. Captain Foster's last act was to trigger the explosive charges they had planted. The blast tore through the command ship, destroying the data core and many Vrax. Back on Earth, Commander Powell received the transmission. "They did it," he told Allison. "We have everything we need." The data revealed that the Vrax neural network operated on a specific frequency. If they could disrupt that frequency, they might break the hive-mind connection. Meanwhile, in the ruins of Chicago, a young woman named Kelly Rodriguez led a group of children through empty streets. Once a teacher, now she was their protector. They were heading to a rumored safe zone in the mountains. "Stay low," she whispered, as a Vrax patrol ship passed overhead. The children, ranging from 6 to 14 years old, followed her instructions perfectly. They had learned quickly how to survive. They moved at night, hiding during the day. Food was whatever they could find or steal from Vrax storage facilities. It was dangerous, but staying in one place was more dangerous. As they neared the edge of the city, Kelly heard gunfire, human gunfire. She led the children toward the sound and found a resistance cell fighting Vrax soldiers. "Get down," a man shouted to her. She pulled the children into a ditch as bullets and energy weapons fired overhead. When the fighting ended, the humans had won. The man who had shouted to her introduced himself as Ben Miller, leader of the Chicago resistance. "We're heading to the mountain base," Kelly explained. Ben nodded. "We'll help you get there. They're working on something big, something that might end this war." At the Prometheus facility, Dr. West and her team prepared to test the Singularity device. Lieutenant Samantha Reeves, a young physicist, had made a breakthrough. "We can tune the device to target the Vrax neural frequency," she explained. "When it activates, the effect will spread through their network." The test was set for the next day. A small team would plant the device in the Seattle harvesting facility and activate it remotely. Across Earth, resistance cells prepared for coordinated attacks. They would strike Vrax positions worldwide, creating a distraction for the test. Night fell. Dr. Carter found Allison on the observation deck looking at the stars. "Do you think there are other aliens out there?" she asked. "Ones who might help us?" "Maybe," he said. "But I think we need to help ourselves first." Allison nodded. "Tomorrow we find out if we can." The next day, as the Singularity device team moved into position, humanity prepared for its most important battle. 6 months of horror and loss had not broken human spirit. Instead, it had forged it into something stronger, something the Vrax had never encountered before, something that would soon make the entire galaxy afraid of humans. They attacked Earth first. Humanity's only response left the galaxy in fear. Part 3. Project Singularity. Dawn broke over the Rocky Mountains. Inside the hidden Prometheus facility, Dr. Eleanor West hadn't slept. Her team worked through the night, making final adjustments to the Singularity device. "The power core is stable," Lieutenant Samantha Reeves reported. She was 28, the youngest scientist on the team. Before the invasion, she had been working on her doctorate in quantum Physics. Now she was working on a weapon that might save humanity. The targeting system is aligned to the VRAX neural frequency, she continued. Once activated, the effect should spread through their network. Dr. West nodded. How far will it spread? We don't know, Samantha admitted. Theoretically, it could affect all VRAX connected to the same network node. In the command center, Major Allison Hayes studied the mission plans. A small team would infiltrate the VRAX harvesting facility built in the ruins of Seattle. They would plant the device, then retreat to a safe distance before activation. The strike team is ready, Commander Ryan Powell told her. 6 volunteers, all former special forces. Make sure they understand the risks, Allison said. We've only tested this device in the lab. Ryan nodded grimly. They understand. They all lost family in the first wave. Meanwhile, Admiral Frank Garrison coordinated the global diversion operation from a submarine in the Pacific. Every remaining military unit and resistance cell would attack VRAX positions simultaneously, drawing attention away from Seattle. All units confirm ready, his communications officer reported. Awaiting your order, sir. Admiral Garrison took a deep breath. Send the go code. May God help us all. Across the world, humans launched their attacks. Fighter jets engaged VRAX, ships over Europe. Tanks and ground troops struck processing centers in Asia. Resistance fighters sabotaged VRAX facilities in South America. The VRAX responded quickly, moving forces to counter the sudden offensive. Just as planned, they pulled units away from the Pacific Northwest. In Seattle, the strike team approached the harvesting facility. They moved silently through the ruins, wearing suits designed to mask their heat signatures from VRAX sensors. Captain Greg Mason led the team. He carried the Singularity device in a special container. It was smaller than he expected, about the size of a football. Remember, he told his team over their secure comm system, we need to place this at the center of the facility. The neural relay node should be there. The harvesting facility was massive, covering what had once been downtown Seattle. VRAX had built it partly underground, with towers rising above the ruins. Humans were brought here from across the region, some for study, others for labor. The team entered through a drainage system. Inside, they moved carefully, avoiding VRAX patrols. The air was thick with strange smells, alien chemicals, and the unmistakable scent of fear. They reached the central chamber after an hour of careful movement. The neural relay node glowed with eerie blue light, pulsing with information flowing to and from the VRAX ships in orbit. Plant the device here, Captain Mason ordered, pointing to the base of the node. As they moved to place the device, alarms suddenly blared. The VRAX had detected them. We've been compromised, said Lieutenant Kim, the team's tech specialist. They're locking down the facility. Captain Mason made a quick decision. Everyone out now. I'll place the device. Sir, the remote trigger? Won't matter if we're all caught, Mason cut in. Go. That's an order. The team hesitated, then followed orders. They retreated toward the exit as VRAX soldiers swarmed into the chamber. Captain Mason fought his way to the neural node, taking hits from VRAX weapons. His armor smoked and melted, but he kept moving. With his last strength, he placed the Singularity device against the node and activated it manually. He smiled as the device powered up. His last thought was of his family. At the Prometheus facility, alarms sounded as sensors detected the Singularity activation. It's working, Samantha shouted, watching the readings. The effect is spreading through their network. On screens around the command center, they watched as the Seattle facility collapsed inward. A swirling vortex of energy formed where the HFY building had stood. VRAX ships in the area began to fail, falling from the sky. The effect is propagating, Dr. Carter reported, monitoring VRAX communications. It's moving through their neural network faster than we predicted. Dr. West's face showed both awe and horror as she watched. What have we created? She whispered. The effect spread across the Pacific Northwest, disabling VRAX forces connected to the Seattle node. For the first time since the invasion, a large area of Earth was completely free of VRAX control, but the victory came at a cost. The strike team was lost. Captain Mason's sacrifice had made the mission successful, but the remote trigger system had failed. Future deployments would need a new approach. Admiral Garrison's forces regrouped after the diversionary attacks. Despite heavy losses, they had accomplished their goal. Now they had proof the Singularity device worked. "We need 5 more devices," General Rivera told Dr. West. "One for each major Varax command ship in orbit." "That will take time," she replied. "At least 2 months." "You have 1 month," he said firmly. "That's all the time we can give you." In the ruins of Chicago, Kelly Rodriguez and her group of children reached the resistance base. They were greeted by soldiers who looked tired but hopeful. "You picked a good time to arrive," said Ben Miller. "We just got word about Seattle. The weapon worked." Kelly didn't understand what weapon they meant, but she could see the effect on the people around her. For the first time in months, they looked like they believed they could win. In the following weeks, resistance cells grew stronger. More humans escaped Varax control, bringing with them information and skills. The tide was beginning to turn. At the Prometheus facility, Dr. West's team worked around the clock to build the 5 new Singularity devices. Lieutenant Samantha Reeves made another breakthrough, finding a way to better focus the effect. "We can target specific Varax frequencies now," she explained. "The effect will only spread to connected ships and bases, not to unconnected Varax forces." Dr. Carter worked with her to map the Varax communication network. "If we deploy all 5 devices, simultaneously we could disable their entire Earth force." General Rivera began planning the next phase. They would need 5 teams to deliver the devices to the Varax command ships in orbit. It would be even more dangerous than the Seattle mission. "We need volunteers," he told the assembled officers. "This will be a one-way mission." Every hand in the room went up. Major Allison Hayes looked around at the faces of her fellow officers. They were thin, scarred, and determined. These were the survivors, the ones who had lived through humanity's darkest hour. Now they were ready to risk everything to save their world. Humanity had been pushed to the edge of extinction, but they had found their strength. They had created a weapon born of desperation and brilliance. The Varax had made a fatal mistake when they attacked Earth. They had awakened something they couldn't understand, the human will to survive, no matter the cost. As the 5 new Singularity devices neared completion, humans across the world prepared for what they called Operation Prometheus Unbound. It would be humanity's final stand. Win or lose, the galaxy would remember what happened when Earth fought back. They attacked Earth first. Humanity's only response left the galaxy in fear. Part 4. Operation Prometheus. Unbound 1 month after the Seattle victory, the 5 new Singularity devices were ready. Dr. Eleanor West gathered her team in the Prometheus facility's main lab for final testing. Each device has been calibrated to target a specific Varax command ship, Lieutenant Samantha Reeves explained. She had barely slept in weeks, but her eyes were bright with determination. When activated, the effect will spread through their neural network to all connected ships and bases. Dr. West nodded. "And the manual override?" "Fixed," Samantha replied. "The devices can be activated by remote trigger or manual switch. Both systems are triple redundant." In the training center, 5 volunteer teams prepared for their missions. Each team would take 1 device to a Varax command ship. Major Allison Hayes watched them practice in zero-gravity chambers built to simulate the conditions they would face in space. Captain Jeff Daniels led Team Alpha. Once a commercial shuttle pilot, he now commanded Earth's most critical mission. His team would target the Varax flagship in orbit over North America. "The approach vectors are set," he told his team. "We'll use the debris field from the Battle of Lunar Base as cover." The teams would use small craft built from salvaged Varax technology. Dr. Carter had discovered that Varax sensors had trouble distinguishing between their own damaged ships and human vessels with the right coding. Admiral Garrison coordinated with resistance cells worldwide to launch the final stand, a massive ground offensive timed with the Singularity deployment. It wasn't about winning battles, but ensuring the space teams could reach their targets. "Every Varax ship or soldier engaged on the ground is 1 less defending their command ships," he explained to his officers. The day before the mission, Dr. Carter found Allison in the observation dome. They stood silently, looking up at the night sky where Vrak's ships were visible as moving lights among the stars. "Do you think this will work?" Allison asked quietly. "It has to," Nathan replied. "We've calculated a 53% chance of success for all 5 teams. Even if only 3 succeed, it should be enough to break their control." Allison nodded. "And afterwards? What happens to the Vraks that survive?" Nathan's face hardened. "They'll run. And they'll tell others about what happened here." Launch day arrived. The 5 teams prepared their ships in hidden bases around the world. They would take off at different times, but synchronize their attacks for maximum effect. General Rivera addressed them via secure video link. "You carry with you the hopes of humanity. Whatever happens today, know that your names will be remembered as the saviors of Earth." Team Alpha launched first from a base in Mexico. Captain Daniels guided his ship upward, 4 crew members with him. Each person on board had volunteered knowing they would not return. Leaving atmosphere, his pilot, Maria Diaz reported, beginning evasive pattern. Their ship moved erratically, mimicking debris tumbling in orbit. Vrak's patrols passed nearby but did not engage. Meanwhile, teams Beta, Gamma, Delta, and Epsilon launched from bases in Europe, Asia, Australia, and South America. All 5 teams successfully reached orbit and began moving toward their targets. On the ground, the final stand began. Resistance cells in every continent launched simultaneous attacks on Vrak's positions. Former enemies fought side by side, American and Russian soldiers, Chinese and Indian forces, nations that once pointed nuclear weapons at each other now, united against a common enemy. Kelly Rodriguez joined the Chicago resistance fighters. She had left the children in the mountain safe zone, promising to return. Now she carried a plasma rifle salvaged from a downed Vrak ship. "Remember," Ben Miller told his fighters, "we just need to keep them busy for 6 hours. Give the space teams time to reach their targets." The Vraks responded to the attacks with surprise. They had not expected such coordination from the fragmented human resistance. Their tactical AI struggled to predict human movements because human commanders made choices the Vraks considered irrational. In orbit, Team Alpha approached the Vrak's flagship. It was massive, a 15-kilometer vessel shaped like a giant insect. Smaller ships moved around it in constant patrol patterns. "We need to reach the ventral docking bay," Captain Daniels told his team. "The neural relay node is 3 levels above it." They drifted closer, using debris as cover. A patrol passed within 100 meters but did not detect them. "We're in position," Maria reported. "Ready for approach burn." Captain Daniels took a deep breath. "Execute." Their engines fired, pushing them toward the docking bay. Immediately, alarms sounded on the Vrak ship. Defense systems activated, firing energy beams at the approaching human vessel. "Evasive maneuvers," Daniels ordered. Maria piloted skillfully, avoiding most of the beams, but their ship took hits. Warning lights flashed across their control panels. "Hull breach in Section 3, reported Eric Chen, their engineer. "Sealing now." Despite the damage, they reached the docking bay. Their ship crashed through the energy barrier, skidding across the floor in a shower of sparks. Vrak soldiers swarmed toward them. "Move," Daniels shouted. "Get to the relay node." They fought their way through the ship, using weapons designed specifically to disrupt Vrak's biology. Sarah Lee, their combat specialist, led the way, clearing corridors with deadly precision. Across the Earth orbit, the other teams faced similar challenges. Team Gamma lost their ship before reaching their target, but managed to launch their Singularity device toward the command ship using an emergency propulsion system. Team Beta successfully infiltrated their target, but lost contact after reporting. They had reached the relay node. Teams Delta and Epsilon both reached their targets and confirmed they were in position. Team Alpha fought to the relay node level. Only Captain Daniels and Sarah remained alive. They reached the massive chamber where the neural relay pulsed with blue energy. "Cover me," Daniels told Sarah. He carried the Singularity device in a backpack. Sarah fired steadily at the approaching Vraks while Daniels worked to place the device at the base of the relay. He activated the arming sequence and set the timer for 5 minutes. Device armed, he reported over the global comm system. Team Alpha ready. Similar reports came in from Teams Delta and Epsilon. Team Gamma's device had attached to their target ship's hull but had not yet confirmed arming. Team Beta remained silent. Admiral Garrison monitored from his command center. 3 confirmed, 1 probable, 1 unknown, he reported to General Rivera. Do we proceed? Yes, Rivera ordered without hesitation. Execute final sequence. The activation signal went out to all 5 devices. Captain Daniels watched the countdown on his device reach 0. The last thing he saw was a flash of brilliant light as space and time bent around him. Across Earth orbit, the Singularity devices activated. The massive Vrax command ships collapsed inward, caught in localized temporal distortions that aged everything within their radius by thousands of years in seconds. The effect spread through the neural network, moving to connected ships and bases. On the ground, humans watched as Virax ships fell from the sky. Virax soldiers suddenly collapsed, their connection to the hive mind severed. In the Prometheus facility, Dr. Carter monitored Vrax communications. It's working, he whispered. Their entire command structure is collapsing. Humanity had struck back with a weapon born of desperation and brilliance. The Vrax invasion force was breaking apart. Their hive mind shattered. Earth had won its most important battle, but the war was not yet over. The singularity effect continued to spread through the Vrax neural network, traveling faster than light through quantum entanglement. It reached beyond Earth, carrying with it a message that would soon echo across the stars. They attacked Earth first. Humanity's only response left the galaxy in fear. Part 5. The galactic message. The Singularity devices changed everything. The effect spread through the Vrax neural network at speeds beyond light, carried by the quantum entanglement that enabled their hive mind communication. On Earth, humans watched in amazement as Vrax ships fell from the sky. Vrax soldiers collapsed where they stood, their connection to the collective mind severed. For the first time in a year, humans could walk freely under the open sky. In the Prometheus facility, Dr. Nathan Carter monitored Vrax communications. The signals were chaotic, filled with what seemed like panic. It's working better than we expected, he told Dr. Eleanor West. The effect isn't just disabling their ships, it's spreading back through their network to their homeworld. On screens, around the command center, they watched satellite images of Vrax bases shutting down across the planet. The few functioning Vrax ships were not attacking. They were fleeing, accelerating away from Earth as fast as their engines could push them. They're running, Major Allison Hayes said, watching the screens with a mixture of disbelief and relief. Admiral Garrison contacted resistance cells worldwide. Reports came in from every continent. The Vrax were retreating. Humanity had won. But the true impact of Operation Prometheus Unbound was still unfolding millions of light-years away. On the Vrax homeworld, their overmind experienced something new, sign of fear. The Vrax collective consciousness had evolved beyond individual emotions millennia ago. Their society was built on pure logic and collective purpose. But now, as millions of connected units died simultaneously, the overmind experienced a primitive emotional response it had no defense against. For the first time, the Vrax feared extinction. They feared humans. Dr. Carter's team intercepted a transmission from the retreating Vrax ships. It was aimed not at Earth but at distant points in space, a warning to other spacefaring species. I can't translate all of it, he told General Rivera, but the message is clear. They're warning others to avoid our solar system. Lieutenant Samantha Reeves had managed to decode parts of the message. They're describing humans as unpredictable and willing to destroy themselves rather than be conquered, she explained. They call us the species that fears nothing, not even death. 1 year after the victory, Earth began its reconstruction. Cities rose from ruins. Fields were replanted. Using salvaged Vrax technology, humans advanced their own science at an incredible pace. Kelly Rodriguez returned to teaching, now in a new school built in the Chicago Recovery Zone. Her students included the children she had protected during the war. They studied human history alongside the new chapter they had just lived through. We fought because we had to, she told them. But now we build because we choose to. Dr. Eleanor West and her team continued their work at the Prometheus facility, now renamed the Earth Defense and Research Center. They studied the remaining singularity devices, looking for peaceful applications of the technology while keeping its weapons potential as Earth's last defense. Major Allison Hayes, now General Hayes, led the newly formed Terran Defense Force. They trained pilots to operate ships built using VRAX technology. Earth would never again be caught unprepared. We're not looking for a fight, she told her officers, but we'll be ready if one comes to us. Dr. Nathan Carter worked with international teams to develop an early warning system that would detect any approaching ships long before they reached Earth. His experience studying the VRAX had given him unique insights into alien biology and technology. 5 years after the victory, on the anniversary that humans now called Freedom Day, a probe arrived at the edge of the solar system. Unlike the VRAX ships, it moved slowly and made no attempt to hide. It broadcast a simple message in mathematical code, a request for communication. Earth's leaders gathered to discuss the response. Admiral Garrison, now retired but still respected, advised caution. It could be another threat, he warned, or it could be an opportunity. They decided to answer. A message was sent, inviting the visitors to approach Mars' orbit but no closer, to Earth. 3 months later, the probe arrived at the designated position. It contained representatives from what called itself the Galactic Concord, a loose federation of 17 spacefaring species. They had received the VRAX warning and come to see for themselves the species that had defeated the previously unstoppable VRAX empire. The Concord representatives met with Earth's leaders on the Mars colony. They were diverse beings, some resembling plants, others like crystals or clouds of gas contained in mechanical suits. None looked remotely human, yet all shared something with humanity, a desire to survive and thrive. "We have observed your species from afar," said the chief representative, its words translated by machines. "Many believed the VRAX exaggerated their warning. Now we understand they did not." The representative explained that the VRAX had been expanding for thousands of years, consuming resources and sometimes entire species. Many in the Concord had lost territories to them. None had successfully fought back until humans. "You have accomplished what our combined civilizations could not," it said. "You have sent the VRAX into retreat across the galaxy." The Concord offered diplomatic relations and trade. They would share knowledge of the galaxy and its inhabitants, if Earth would share one thing in return, a promise. The singularity. "Technology," the representative said. "We ask that you restrict its use to defense of your own system. Never use it as a weapon of expansion." Earth's leaders discussed the offer and accepted. They had never wanted to conquer, only to survive. The Galactic Concord welcomed Earth as its 18th member. As the treaty was signed, Dr. Carter looked out the window of the Mars colony at the stars. Somewhere out there, the VRAX were telling stories of Earth, stories that would make other species think twice before threatening the blue planet. Humanity had never wanted to be feared. They had only wanted to live in peace. But when pushed to the edge of extinction, they had shown the galaxy what humans were capable of. The VRAX had made a terrible mistake when they attacked Earth first. They had given humanity no choice but to fight back with everything they had, and in doing so, they had revealed a truth that would echo across the stars for generations to come. The most dangerous species in the galaxy was not the one with the most advanced technology or the largest empire. It was the one that would sacrifice everything to survive, that would stand together against impossible odds, and that would never, ever surrender. It was humans.